Someone can steal his email and they can send they'll just start sending spam, phishing emails and everything else. And because it's from a trusted email address, it's been one thing that's been going on. And it's like the people are not using the we too like you to submit. Wow. Type of English that raises suspicions like, hey, do you believe we from foreign country? Type of English. No, it's like, spot on, grammarly, polished, college level looking. They've been saying that like that's been on the rise lately, that they were warning at like just a few weeks ago.
It has gotten to the point where you never click on a link in your email ever.
Or, you have to pretty much vet it carefully. That's what I'm saying. Like nowadays, though, if you're a medium-sized business and you have email security software, a lot of them are using threat intelligence in their stuff. So it tends to, like Ironport's one of them. There's a few more, but basically it will take a look at your email and then toss it if it's bad.
Is that host-based or is that server-based?
It's like a server-based appliance, but
nice.
It uses SOAR technology, but it can connect to the cloud, to your cloud instances. It can be server or cloud-based SaaS. There's other email security solutions, but that basically keeps the phishing down to a minimum.
That was Ironport. I'm trying to put these links in a notepad so that I got all this stuff when we're done.
Darktrace is another one. That's like the other big one. That's like the big one for like SaaS technology. Ironport's basically Cisco. You can also get it as an on-prem appliance, kind of like a Barracuda box. But this one here, they have like Darktrace uses like threat intelligence type of stuff. It looks for advanced phishing. It also looks for like account takeover signatures. So like it can check with other people, like, hey, why is this account it can detect like, if Bill is on vacation, it'd be like, it'll start to disable his account. It's like, why is Bill sending, like 9,000 messages an hour? And he's on vacation, but the HR has it marked on vacation. So, it can do that, especially if it's internal email, because, like if the account gets taken over, it has like a little bit more sophistication. It can also look like domain spoofing. You're familiar with the 3 A's, right?
You're talking about authentication, authorization, and accountability?
No, I'm talking about the 3 letters of A.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean the domain spoofing with the different characters that look the same? Yeah.
Yes, homonyms. It's basically, the particular homonyms, like you can have Apple and then you can have Apple, but if you spell it, but in Unicode, to your eye, it looks the same. But,
But it's not. It's a different domain. And yeah, I used to work for a registrar, and we had to go and write some code to crack down on people who are registering homonym domains.
But, like even in pen testings had like uses for homonym scripts for that, just to, there's a few red team tools for it, but like for homonyms, it basically, was easy to trick people because you could basically just put a P in Russian, looks like a P in English, but it's an R. Or basically it'd be a pi, basically, type deal. But basically Ironport, Darktrace, Ironport, those are like at least two things. I mean, Some of them are AI. Some of them, can learn from other dark trace instances that a user that your partner company's on vacation and it's anomalous for their email when they only send maybe 2 or 3 emails a day to suddenly be sending like 9,000, like a spam bot. So, there's email security now that can connect, especially for enterprise that can do it. Flare VM's good for certain things. But yeah, that's pretty much some basics right there. There's defense in depth. Pretty much these days, layer, or everything pretty much, especially in the enterprise, is layered as much as you can, and it's just some of the stuff that you want to use. It's got to be effective, and it's got to be not an arm and a leg that you can, and stuff that I try and be as agnostic as I can, because because if it starts becoming not effective, then you want to get rid of it before it's too much of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because some places like to keep the tool around forever and a day, and even though it's not effective anymore. Especially with solar winds, because sometimes complacency breeds contempt.
Say it isn't so. Stop playing.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how everyone was so hooked on it. That was what was up on the main screen, and all the talks and jocks. We got solar winds. We can see our network. We know everything that's going on. We know, every 30 seconds we get a ping test on each one of our routers, and we know what's up, what's down. That's great. So does everybody else. Good job.
Woohoo! There's Zabbix. It runs on Linux. Hell, you can run on a Raspberry Pi. Woohoo! There's Naganos. There's a whole dozen of them. Like there's some that use Naganos and then a newer modern UI for now. But I mean, there's a half dozen other ones that are free and don't, have any vulnerable code attached to them. But hey, we've used it for time immemorial. We're going to keep using it. And we're going to keep paying that expensive licensing. Yeah, I used to be a small, IT consultancy and an MSP. Let's put it this way. Your average grad student can't afford to pay for any freaking licensing. But what he can play with is a bunch of free stuff, right? Might take me 6 hours of time instead of having it set up immediately like in SolarWinds. Might have to be a little bit more creative, but once I got a good config, I'd save it and I'd use it again and again. And free was good. A lot of other businesses tended to agree. So they didn't have the licensing fees to keep that either. Plus, never know what kind of backdoors were in it. Whereas the open source stuff, yeah, I could audit that stuff. Basically maintain security awareness, education, and training programs. So a lot of companies will do that. As again, the phishing testing, they'll have like security champions or like i.e. security officers. Tabletop gamification, you'll play what if games a lot if you're doing the compliant side. Hey, president of the company, we need to kill you just for this tabletop exercise. You're having a fun weekend with your family, and then your Cessna went down into the Rockies. We're sorry. We're totally sorry. Now, since you're lying in a pile of rubble, and we have to keep the company operating, what do we do? What are the risks? If his personal emails leak, what's the personal risks of the company if he I had a mistress on the side we didn't know about. You know, all those fun tabletop type of what if scenarios, or what if the SCADA equipment in the elevator that for the new building we bought has vulns and people can use the old dial-up system to, like, get into the elevator equipment and then pivot into our network. So, you'll be constantly doing stuff like that as far as like that. Asset security. So, basics here is data classification, asset classification. So, is it a piece of hardware? Is it, what's the software it's running? What are the key like data assets that it's running, i.e., if you could afford to lose a database, which one is it? Is it like the product catalog that's been discontinued from 3 years ago, or is it the one that they're using right now? Is it the customer database that's current versus the archival customer database from 10 years ago? That's there for just market research, such as demographic and trying to improve your advertising. So which ones can you afford to be without for extended periods of time if you had like a ransomware incident?
Mm-hmm.
If it took you a week to restore, which ones can you live without for a while? Establish information and asset handling requirements. Secret, top secret, bigot cleared.
Right.
Yeah, my grandparents were bigots. So, bigots was a special section of clearance.
Wow. Didn't know that one.
Yeah. Let's just say that they were feeling a little bit bombed out after, being drugged to London and watching most of their friends get blown up. And then they were like college professors, and one of them was an engineering professor. You can figure out which machine that they were working on in which park in London.
Uh-huh.
That's why they were bigot cleared. That's why they were bigots. It's the reason why they said of bigots, because, basically if someone heard that, they figured, well, you're just an asshole. I don't need to pay any more attention, So then they would walk on. That was, and to figure, hey, it's a special section of top secret and, compartmented. Basically that's the one thing in the military, you'll have all kinds of data classification, like ITT Excelis, or ITT when they were a whole. We were in the process of splitting them, but, let's just say that they had a nice set of dishes in Fort Wayne and did all kinds of nice stuff for our DoD friends and, places that in Virginia that don't exist. Wouldn't know anything about those. But they had like a whole department that would throw us out of the room if they needed to, and handled all the Outlook systems that had special tagging. They had more GPOs on the Outlook server for all the secret squirrel emails than you could shake a stick at. Because they had to keep them locked down. They had to force them to be encrypted. They had to force them onto like special shares that were encrypted, and like they had to audit every time that they were read or accessed, and then they made sure that they used multi-factor. It was nuts. But ITT had, snacked on so many companies that they were starting to collapse under their own weight. And because they had a division that did like water sewage treatment, you had a different regulatory compliance, and you had a division that was making electronics, i.e. night vision goggles for the military, and then you had a division that was doing like space systems for, our friends at Langley as contractors. So, and then you had like their consumer products division and manufacturing. So, they had all those regulatory compliances like tripping each other up. So they decided to split into 3 large enterprises. That way they didn't have to trip over each other's toes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fun rife mess. So they had all kinds of that tagging stuff, we didn't get to see it. But they had like certain assets classified, as far as systems, and everything very well classified, because some systems we could touch and some systems were no. So basically, some companies will do that, which is the crown jewels, which are the ones in your company that you absolutely got to protect, and then which ones can you afford to lose, i.e. the receptionist's machine at the front. If you had to re-image it and it's got a Google Calendar for saying, hey, welcome to your interview, here's your visitor badge. You can pretty